My guest today is Erin Davis. Erin is an unbelievably amazing woman, and I can't wait for you to hear her story. She's actually an accountant who's now working with women and helping them fall in love with who they are. She was the epitome of a busy corporate woman climbing the ladder to create a better life for her family, and it left her feeling exhausted, unfulfilling, and lifeless. The pressure to be successful and lead a team as well as a wife and a mum to 3 kids was intense. And the reality was that she knew she was completely exhausted, emotionally depleted, and just living day to day, going through the motions, wishing everything was different. One day, the smallest thing tipped her over the edge, and she realized she had to make a change for herself and her family and a better life. She participated in a life-changing breakthrough that shifted everything for her. For the first time, she felt calm, she felt peaceful, and she knew exactly what she wanted for herself. And since then, Erin has seen changes in every part of her life. From being too tired to care for herself at all, she started trail running and even completed that 50-kilometer trail run event. She's created a working environment that's better, that suits her family's needs, found her voice and the confidence to do things she never thought were possible. She now works with women, helping them to discover the amazingness of who they are, to become more centered, more aware, and to live the truth, live the difference they were born to make. More importantly, she's no longer scared to follow her dreams, and she also inspires women to be able to follow their dreams too. Listen as we hear how this woman went from an accountant in her head to now being a life-changing change agent from heart, and the transition and transformation that happened in between the two, and how she still uses her incredible skills to be able to help support women at the times of their lives that they need it. Hi, Erin. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi. Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited to be able to chat with you today. Erin, for those that, although we will have done an introduction, do you want to maybe share a little bit about who you are and who you help at the moment?
My name's Erin Davis and I'm an accountant. However, the work that I love to do is working particularly with women in that mindset space and financial empowerment. So that's the real driver for me. That's the space I love to be, because from there you can just create so much impact throughout the whole space. That's the space I love to play in.
It's exactly why I invited you on the podcast, because it's rare to actually speak to a woman who loves numbers, who has worked with numbers for a long time, and also loves herself and teaches others how to do that too. So do you want to maybe share, how did you get to where you are now?
Yeah, sure. So I think it all really started for me being in a manager's role as an accountant in a large firm. The pressure and the expectation I put on myself to do everything and be everything, be the manager for my clients, my staff, be a mum, because I'm a mum of 3 kids, be a wife, and also me, it was just so much. So the expectation I put on myself to do everything and be everything for everybody got to the point where it was just too much. And I didn't actually realize just how overflowing my cup was until it just came crashing down. And so it was at that point that I realized that I needed to do something about it. I didn't have a clue what it was. I just knew that I couldn't keep showing up the way that I was showing up now. So yeah, went on this huge self-discovery journey, did a lot of things, and really just discovered myself and learnt how to be confident within myself, show up for myself, choose myself without feeling guilty. And through doing that, I have been able to make a huge career change. I've restored my relationship with my kids, because I was that cranky, angry, horrible mum that would just yell and scream behind closed doors, because that's my safe place. And so my poor kids copped it. But that's not the mum that I wanted to be. So I restored my relationship with my kids. I now choose myself and run heaps. I go to the beach heaps. I just show up for myself and do the things that I love to do, which is totally different to how I was before. So everything has shifted because of that, I suppose, initial hitting rock bottom. But it wasn't super rock bottom, but it was enough of a rock bottom to go, hang on, this needs to change.
Yeah. Would you say it was like it was burnout? Like you had just been working and working, and I would label it as doing. Like I'm just doing all the things. I'm doing the managing. I'm doing the mum thing.
Yep.
I'm doing the relationships thing. I'm doing work, and I'm like, and I'm done. For you, when you realized that you were burnt out, like what were you looking for in terms of change and transformation?
I really had no clue at all. And I really didn't realize that I was at burnout. But looking back at it now, I think that's what it was. And for me, it was just the pressure and the expectation I put on myself, which nobody else put on me. It was all on myself to do everything and be everything for everyone. And that's where I was just mentally exhausted. I was at capacity, and I had no clue what I wanted, had no clue who I was, and I really had no clue about how to resolve it. I just knew that something needed to change.
Yeah. So was there something in particular you were looking for to create that change?
No, not really. I think it was I just knew something needed to change, and I knew that I couldn't keep going the way that I was going. So I needed to, I suppose I just needed to really take a step back and work out what I was doing, what I wanted, who I was. And then from there, everything has just evolved. And the more confident that I've become, and the more true to myself and knowing what it is that I want, the more that has evolved. So I suppose it's evolved over time, but at the start, I really had no clue what that transformation looked like, how it was going to happen, what needed to happen. It just needed to happen.
So did you take yourself off somewhere? Like when you say you took a step back, did you go and attend any conferences or workshops or retreats, or like were you Googling on Facebook how to help mums that are too busy? Like what were you Googling on Facebook? Don't mind me, but like what action did you have to take in order to be able to create the transformation?
So the first step that I did was take myself off to a retreat. And I felt super guilty about that because that was spending money on myself, which I felt like I should be spending on my family instead of myself. I didn't think that I was that bad, but clearly when I was there and it all just like came out, it was like, yep, you really need to do this. So it was a retreat, and that's where I was first exposed to, I suppose, really that personal development coming from an internal space and being in flow as a woman as to what I need and how I need to show up for me, and, really tapping into that intuition because, to be honest, I had just been to accounting conferences, and accountants tend to not be super fun and not be super exciting. So accounting conferences are usually not very fun. They're very dry and very logical and very male-based, I suppose, in that traditional sense that it's very structured, it's very logical. Whereas for me, I needed a feminine approach, and I needed to be in flow, and I needed to tap into that in order to make the transformation. And that has been the key for me.
One of the things I was thinking about when you were sharing that is something that I learned at a retreat that really resonated with me, that it was like when we experience, and our bodies do this, they adapt. So when we experience pressure and tension, it's like this becomes our new level of normal. And then we get a little bit more, and then this becomes a new level of normal. And then we get a little bit more, and this becomes a new level of normal. Until all of a sudden we get to a point where it's like, well, for those that are listening, you can't see my hands going away from each other, but we get to a point where the tension is just like, ugh, and we literally just go, that's it, I can't handle it anymore. And it's not like one particular thing happened that created it. It's just layer upon layer upon layer upon layer. And as my beautiful mentor at the time said, she calls it shit stacking, where you just like, there's just shit on shit on shit on shit and shit. And it's like we get to that point where it's like we're just full and we can't give any more. And it's like our brain just goes, nah, that's it, I'm done.
And that was totally me. That was me. The kids just didn't come and eat dinner one night. That's all it was. And that was the part that made that overflow. So, traditionally, I suppose, the kids don't eat dinner regularly. That's not something unusual, but it was because of all of that stuff that had happened beforehand that it was just too much. That was the breaking point, and it was at that point that something needed to change.
Yeah. And it sounded like it was you. There was the internal work to be able to go, okay, great. So what did that transformation look like after that retreat? Where did you start to immerse yourself in order to maintain that change? Because we don't just have a transformation and tick, job done. It's a perpetual thing that we show up as.
Yes. Yes. So for me, that retreat allowed me to hear things in a way that I needed to hear it. And I'd been told by my boss for a long, long time that I was doing a great job and everything was fine and everything was great. However, I wasn't hearing it in a way that I needed to hear it. So at that retreat, I did. And it was from that moment that I started to listen to myself. And it was pretty scary to start with because it was very foreign and very new. And I suppose when you haven't done something like that before, it can be really scary to trust yourself in that way when you've been in such a male-dominated space for such a long time. Showing your emotions is seen to be weak, and how can I be successful and how can I be professional if I'm like that? So I heard things in a way that I needed to hear it. And then it is really just now being aware of my thoughts. It's catching myself when I'm thinking in a negative space. My self-confidence is huge and it's still growing. It's still evolving all the time, but it's about really tapping into what's important to me, knowing what I want, working through those values and just being really aligned to them. So the actions that I'm taking are all in alignment with those values, because I think once you find what it is that's really important to you, not what you think is important, but what is actually important to you, and you start to keep that front of mind, you can make decisions that are aligned with that. And then the action that you take just brings you a step closer to what it is that's super important to you. And that's been the key for me, is the action taking and showing up, even if my voice shakes, even if I feel scared, even if I am not sure of what the outcome is going to be. It's trusting in the process and trusting in myself that I know what I want. I know that it's going to come. And I heard the other day that my ceiling now becomes the floor. So it's each time you step up, you're on the floor and then you reach a new ceiling level, but you keep pushing to get to that ceiling. So that's sort of what it's been. It's just been a constant evolution of doing things and really just tuning into myself. So that's what I mean when I say doing things. It's tuning into me, following my heart, listening to what's important, and most importantly is taking the action.
Yeah, actually doing what our heart says, because our heart always knows.
Yeah, and trusting yourself that it's going to be okay, because you might not get it right all the time, but trusting that you're being led in a direction that is aligned to what's important to you, so the outcome will be what you need it to be.
Yeah, it's so good. And so for you, how did you go from working full-time as an accountant and stepping into now helping other women discover the amazingness of who they are and grow their confidence? Like that seems, it just seems like such a, they're completely poles apart. Yeah, pretty much chalk and cheese. That's exactly right. Yes. And yet, I have the privilege of seeing the joy that's coming through what it is that you're sharing as you're sharing this. And I trust that those that are listening can hear the joy that flows through as you talk about this stuff, because not just, you couldn't possibly contain this. Yeah, like this has to be shared, and you share it so beautifully. And you can definitely follow Erin on socials, and we'll put all of her amazing socials on in the show notes, because there's just so much joy. And I do have the privilege of seeing your beautiful post-run glow that happens, and you take selfies and you're like,
sweaty glow.
I love it. Oh, it is a sweaty glow, but there's some
happiness though, isn't it?
It really is. Yeah. And you can't fake
that. No, and I think that's the thing, that you can't hide happiness, and you can mask really well of the struggles that you're having and just how you're feeling. You can mask that, but people looking in can actually see it. So no matter how hard you think you're masking it and keeping it hidden, you really aren't. But when you're in a space where you feel totally lit up and you feel so much joy and happiness, you just can't hide it. And it just radiates. It just oozes from you. And I feel like that has been the biggest change. For me, it's that belief in myself. It's about just enjoying the little things, enjoying the moments and being present in the moment instead of thinking about everything else that I have to do, and just really embodying everything that I do because it's now in alignment with what I feel and what I want. And I think that has been the biggest change, that when you determine what it is that you want and you take action steps towards that, you just can't help but be happy and joyful and excited. And the more work that I do with women, the more I see how much we are hiding ourselves and putting other people first and saying yes to other people when we really don't want to. Or it's, you say yes to everybody else and there is nothing left for you at the end of the day. And the more work I do, the more I see that. And so, yes, I still say yes to people when sometimes I don't want to. However, I set the boundaries, and I set the boundaries for myself and show up for myself. And when I've been able to show up for myself, everything has changed.
Yeah. Yeah. So how do you work with women now? Like, how did you sort of transition out of that accounting space and into this, what you're doing now?
So accounting is all about connection as well, but this type of work is a different type of connection. It's more of a heartfelt connection. So for me, it's still being in the accounting space, but it's coming at it from a heart-centered space rather than just a purely numbers-driven thing. Because when you're coming from somewhere that's feeling aligned and feeling on purpose and you're feeling driven, then the results that you're going to get are so much easier and so much better. So the transition has been still in accounting, however, recognizing opportunities when they come up to have a discussion with women about, well, what is it that they truly want? What are they saying yes to instead of saying no to? Where do they want to be? How do they want that to happen? And it's really sort of working on that mindset space behind the financials, because the financials are numbers and they are there and they're super important. However, you need to be confident within yourself and you need to know your purpose and know where you're going. And I suppose that's been where I've led myself to. And I do retreats now. I do workshops. I show up and I just be myself. I think it's just being your true, authentic self. And I used to hate public speaking. Like, I would die public speaking. But now I am running workshops every month and women are attending this, and I feel confident and I feel in flow and I just feel like I can connect. And it is such a different space to connect from a heart-centered space rather than just, a purely relationship connection.
I think it's amazing that you're running these face-to-face events like live workshops and retreats, because often I speak to a lot of massage therapists and bodywork practitioners who want to run events and are like, either they're afraid of public speaking, as you said, or they're afraid of, or they're not quite, they're unsure of, how do I market that? How do I get people to it? I put it out there. What will I talk about? And so many what ifs. What was your ways of kind of at the start getting people to these once a month workshops?
I think for me, it was really just sharing authentically. It was sharing my story, connecting through story, and sharing 2 or 3 things that I know that other people don't know. And those few things have been the catalyst, I suppose, to embrace the conversation. And the retreats and the workshops that I run I hire an Airbnb for the afternoon. It's a very casual type of thing. We have afternoon tea and we sit around the kitchen table and we have a conversation. And for me, that felt really comfortable. So I think if you find something that feels comfortable, run with that. Just do that. Because for me, talking about women's emotions and being vulnerable didn't sit well with being in a corporate boardroom around a U-shaped table. Like, that just didn't feel right for me. So I wanted something where I would feel comfortable opening up and sharing. And that meant that we just have an afternoon tea. We have beautiful homemade treats and a glass of champagne or a cup of tea, whatever whatever you want to do. But I think the most important thing was I did it my way rather than doing it somebody else's way or doing it the way that I thought it needed to happen. Yeah. It's evolved over time, but it pretty much, it's been tweaked over time. It pretty much looks the same now as what it did to start with. I suppose I am just more comfortable with having the conversation. And I think it's recognizing that you know more than the people know that are coming. They're coming because they want to learn something and they're choosing to come. So you just need to show up as you and be your authentic self and share from your heart, share your passion, share what you know, because you're going to know more than what they know. And they don't know that you're nervous or you're worried or anything like that. You just need to show up as you and just enjoy it and have fun.
Yeah, and you're right. I think being able to take what you know and just like you said, just pick 3 things that you know that other people don't. As bodywork practitioners, we know a whole heap about the body. We know there's heaps of stuff we could teach and talk about that we think everybody knows, but in reality, we're the only one who knows it. It makes sense to us,
exactly.
But it doesn't make sense to people who aren't trained. So it's easy to teach. And secondly, I love how you said, just do it the way that's you. I look in the training rooms that we run and I don't know anyone who runs them like we do. And that's very intentional because there isn't anyone like us. Yeah. And you can see influences of lots of different people that we've trained with and I love that. And ultimately it's just got our flavors. And it's exactly as we want it to be. And the most comfortable I've ever been as a trainer is being at the front of a room when I'm running it the way that, like you said, I just know that this is how people will connect and resonate, and every single person in the room is going to have a transformation and a breakthrough. Whether that's 2 people in the room or 50 people in the room, 16 people online or however it works, just showing up, knowing and having that certainty, not that you know your stuff, although you probably do, but having that trust that what you're about to share is going to help to influence other people's lives. Unbelievable.
Yeah, and I think that's the most important thing. It's doing it your way and it's doing it how you feel comfortable, not how you think it needs to be done. Because everybody could just show up and stand in front of a room and say, blurt it out. But for me, it's all about connection. It's about resonating with the people that I'm talking to. For them, it's their perspective of understanding where I've come from and that I'm a real life example of being able to transform your life, to not being able to speak up, to not be able to be confident, to just say yes to everybody when you really want to say no, or crying at the drop of a hat, which is what I used to do, to now standing in front of women that I don't know, talking to people that I don't know, sharing things that are pretty vulnerable, because I know deep in my heart with total certainty, total conviction that what I have to share will change their life. And that, I think, is the conviction to know that you want people to succeed, you want people to step up and live their true, authentic self, whatever that looks like for them, with no preconceived ideas. It's just about them stepping up and being whatever they want to be in their true self. That's just a game changer for them, plus everybody around them.
Yeah. Yeah. Amen. You're preaching from a songbook. I'm there. It's so true.
I think that's the thing. It's about being totally convicted that what you're sharing is able to help somebody else, and you're not coming from a selling perspective. You're not drumming it down people's throats. They're choosing to be there. They're choosing to connect with you. So I think the best thing that you can do is just be your true, authentic self. You're not going to please everybody. Nobody's going to be liked by everybody. There's always going to be somebody that's critical. And I've had those people at my workshops and they have been really critical and it has been really hard. But then after I have my little pity party and a bit of a sulk and carry on, it's go, okay, but what about all the other people that came? What about all the other people that resonated and want to work together? It's focus on them because they're the ones that I'm here to help.
And I think that's where mindset comes into its own, our ability to course correct, to be able to come from a centered space of knowing this is what I want, this is my purpose, this is who I am, and this is what I'm here to do to change the world. And when things don't go to plan, as they often don't, it's being able to go, you know what, a bit of self-compassion in one hand and a bit of humanness in the other. Check my pulse. Yes, I'm human. It really is. I know. Just being really honest to go, I hated that. It sucked. And then being able to actually pick the pieces up and speak to yourself kindly, like you would, and I love like the 3 steps to self-compassion, and it's something just that I'm working on at the moment. Being kind and caring towards yourself, framing imperfection as part of the shared human experience, and seeing things clearly without ignoring or exaggerating problems. And that's what I heard in your response to, okay, didn't go the way I wanted, is it's like, okay, have the pity party, go there because you're human. It's okay to go there. You just don't have to live out of it. Yeah. And then being able to go, okay, so kindly, okay, is this the end of the world? No. Did other people get a breakthrough? Yes. Are they just not quite ready on their journey? Yeah, probably. The most resistant people, whatever we resist persists. It's not going away for them. It just now might not be the right time for them to break through. And that is okay. Yeah, like being able to have that premise.
I think it's also to the stories that we tell ourselves. And as women, we have a very big emotional vocabulary, and we attach meaning and emotion to everything. So every time we tell the story, the emotion gets stronger and stronger and stronger. So if you are in a space where maybe it didn't go to plan, or maybe you had somebody that was a bit narky and a bit, aggressive, or didn't quite show up the way that you wanted to, you then attach meaning to that and you attach the emotion to it. So then you remember every other time in your life that something has happened in a similar way, and the emotions keep coming up. So I think it's about recognizing where those emotions are and what you're saying to yourself, because awareness is the absolute key. And then it's reframing it. It's stopping the story. It's okay. Yes, it happened, but I don't have to live in that space. I can move forward. I can do something different. I can step up. I can change. Like you said, I'm still here. I'm still alive. Nobody died. It's all good. And you know what? The people that have been following me for a while just go, you are so inspiring. Like, you just show up every month, regardless of what's happening. You show up, you share. I check in with people and they're like, oh, you just made my day. You're so inspiring. And it's like, me? Really? I never thought that I would be inspiring to anybody. But I think when you are sharing from your heart and it's coming from a good place, then the right people will be attracted, and you just got to keep doing you.
Yeah. And being able to use that understanding of like awareness creates a possibility of a different choice. That if we have something that happens and we attach a different meaning to it. Yeah, like, so if we hear, okay, it didn't go to plan, or I'm inspiring, and in the past it might have been like, no, I'm not. Whereas if the opposite is true, wow, yeah, you know what? There is actually the possibility that I might be inspiring, and it's not hard, it's not effort. I don't have to do this every day in order for my identity to be okay, because there's no anxiety attached to that. It's not attached to your identity. It's just who you are and who you be. Then it's easy. It flows, and being able to attach meaning to that creates a stronger feeling, which then creates more purpose every time you do it. It's like it's a perpetual cycle of awesomeness, I would say.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think when you celebrate your wins along the way and you create those feelings of happiness and joy and purpose, you attach to those feelings and you want to create more of those ones. So that's why you keep doing it and you keep showing up, because when you are able to help somebody like I do, it's really a paycheck of the heart, which is really quite strange. But when you can set a woman's heart free from all of that shit that she's going on with, no self-confidence, doubting everything that she does, people pleasing, overthinking, and you can resolve those issues for her, it just is so good. It is just amazing. It is the biggest gift that I gave myself, and now I just have to share it with other people because I know the impact that it has.
So let's talk a bit about people pleasing. You have a bit of a gift for our listeners. So do you want to talk a bit about how people pleasing showed up in your life and what it's been like not needing to be a people pleaser anymore and getting your significant needs in many other ways? What's it been like?
I actually didn't realize I was a people pleaser at all. And I think people pleasing is a label, but for me, it showed up by continuously checking in with people. Like, did I do the right thing? Did I buy the right present? Is this okay? You know, are you okay? Is it okay? Did I do the right thing? You know, they were the questions. And I know I just repeated myself, but they were the repeats that were going on in my head all the time. So I don't think that I was consciously aware that I was a people pleaser. I didn't realize that I kept saying yes to things, but it was more for me saying yes to things because I didn't want to upset anybody. I didn't want to do the wrong thing by anybody. I didn't want to break the rules. I didn't want people to not like me. I think that was the key, because everything I did was for other people and I always had the best of intentions. However, the way that came across was not always favorable, but I couldn't see it because I was just so stuck in that. I need to make sure that it's okay for them. So I think that's how people pleasing showed up for me, but it shows up in a huge range of different ways for different people. And it really comes back to saying yes to things where you really mean no, or not backing yourself in favor of other people, continuously giving a piece of yourself to everybody else, and there's nothing left for you at the end of the day. You know, it's always putting yourself last. It's doing these things that other people want, but you just can't speak your truth or speak up in fear of conflict, or you don't want to have conflict. You want to avoid that at all costs, or any of those type of things is how people pleasing shows up. And so now that I say yes to myself, I am just so much more confident in just doing what I want and I'm not asking for permission. I am accepting of myself because I know that I am a good person and I know that I do things with the best of intentions, and I know that that is received by other people, and I don't need their validation to make me a good person, because I know that I am a good person.
And the beautiful part about that, like the part of being able to say yes and no congruently, you know, is that when you say no as a complete sentence, it allows you to say yes to the things that you want. And I think when we say yes to the things we don't want, it actually means that we have to say no to the things that we want. You know, because we're absolutely not able to be open to those possibilities. So the opportunity and the learning to have the confidence to be able to say, no, I don't want to do that, or actually I'm not prepared to do that, or I could do it this way, but I'm not prepared to do it that way. It actually allows us to say yes to more opportunities. Because when we say yes, as you shared, you're saying it with authority, and you're saying, I am all in for this yes. I am absolutely all in.
And I choose that yes. Yeah, I choose it. It's my choice to do that. And I'm not doing it because somebody else wants me to. I'm doing it because it feels right for me. It feels aligned. It feels purposeful. It feels driven in the direction that I want to go. And when you can make choices from that space rather than out of fear or lack of confidence or doubting yourself, then you're not going to achieve the results that you want. So being able to step up into a space where you can confidently say yes to yourself and know 100% that this is what you want, then it just brings that flow back. And when you can have the flow, everything changes.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, Erin, are you working full-time, part-time? Do you run your own business? Like, what does that look? What does life look like for you now?
Life is still a huge juggle for me at the moment. So I am still working 4 days a week as an accountant. I am running my business on the side. I am doing monthly workshops. I am doing one-on-one coaching, financial empowerment coaching with women. I am running a deep awareness program at the moment, which includes a 12-week coaching accountability group, because for me, it's all about taking the action. It's one thing to buy a course, but it's another thing to actually make sure you do it. So the results we are getting in that is just outstanding. It is just so unbelievable when you are on purpose and you are consciously aware and consciously taking action. So life for me is very, very busy. The aim is that I want to reduce the accounting space eventually. Yeah, but it all takes time, and it's an evolution. And I know that I am a better accountant because I have better connections and I show up for myself better than what I did before. So it all sort of works hand in hand, which seems a bit odd because, like you said before, it's very different doing this type of work to accounting. But I feel like because of this and because of the way that I show up and the way that I look after myself and the way that I prioritize myself has meant that I can thrive in so many other areas of my life.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Erin, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate you sharing with us. It's phenomenal to hear your journey, and I have had the privilege of meeting you. And honestly, it was just almost by chance, and it's been a wonderful. It was so cool. We went to an Oscars party together, and Erin walked in, and I thought, "Oh, you look like a really lovely human." And we just started talking, and then just kind of Facebook friended each other, and we've been connecting ever since. So I love it. I love connections like that.
But I think that's the thing, though, isn't it? When you put yourself into an opportunity or put you into a space where you can have opportunities, you know, the most beautiful connections arise. And I have made some beautiful friends from my workshops and the clients that I work with, all through putting yourself out there and just trusting that you're doing the right thing, and the right people will come into your life at the right time. And I never used to be a really big woo-woo believer in all of that type of stuff. But the more I tap into the energy that I want and be around those type of energetic people, the happier I am and the more fulfilled that I feel. So that is the goal, is to put myself around those people more and show up in a space where I want to be.
Love that so much. Thank you.
You've been listening to the Health Leader Podcast, hosted by James and Alicia Crook, together with Christine Knox, business coaches and modality mentors for massage and manual therapy. Elevate your hands-on skill and your practice to get incredible results at the Health Leader Co. Jump onto Facebook or Instagram and look for the Health Leader Co to connect. Also, please go to iTunes and rate us 5 stars so that even more people can access this podcast.